The Blue Star's Gift. The winter storm howled through Montana's Bitterroot Mountains like a wounded beast. Devin Reed pulled his thermal jacket tighter, scanning the wilderness before him through specialized goggles. As the region's most experienced rescue specialist, he'd seen plenty of strange things in these mountains, but the pulsing blue light ahead of him definitely wasn't normal. "Base, I'm picking up unusual readings about half a mile north of Waypoint 7, he reported into his comm unit. "Going to investigate." "Copy that, Reed. Weather's getting worse. Make it quick." The light grew stronger as Devin approached, casting ethereal shadows across the snow. It seemed to emanate from a small ravine ahead, pulsing with an almost heartbeat-like rhythm. As he reached the edge, he noticed the snow around the area had melted in a perfect circle, revealing bare rock underneath. That's when he saw it, a crystalline formation about the size of a house cat, glowing with that same mesmerizing blue light. But unlike any crystal he'd ever encountered, this one seemed to move, shifting and flowing like liquid glass. As he watched, fascinated, he could have sworn he saw patterns forming within it, patterns that looked almost like faces. "This is definitely not geological," he muttered, reaching for his sample collection kit. Before he could open it, the crystal suddenly contracted, emitting a high-pitched sound that made him wince. The outer layer cracked, revealing something inside that made his breath catch in his throat. A small creature, no larger than a rabbit, emerged from the crystal shell. Its body seemed to be made of the same translucent material, but softer, more organic. 6 delicate limbs ended in star-shaped appendages, and 2 large, opalescent eyes fixed on him with unmistakable intelligence. The creature was injured, that much was clear from the way it favored one side and the dim flickering of its internal light. Without thinking, Devin removed his outer glove and slowly extended his hand. "Easy there, little one. I'm not going to hurt you." To his amazement, the creature understood. It took a tentative step toward him, then another. When it finally touched his hand, a jolt of energy surged through his body, and for a brief moment, he saw something. A vast city of crystal spires reaching into an alien sky. Ships that looked like falling stars. And danger, terrible danger. The vision ended as quickly as it had begun, leaving him dizzy but certain of one thing: this being needed his help. Against all his training and better judgment, Devin carefully lifted the creature and tucked it into his insulated rescue pack. "Base, this is Reed. Nothing significant to report at the location. Heading back." The lie felt strange on his tongue, he'd never been anything but truthful with his team. But something told him this discovery needed to stay secret, at least for now. The journey back to his cabin took twice as long as usual, with the storm growing fiercer by the minute. By the time he reached his isolated home, night had fallen and temperatures had plummeted well below zero. The creature had remained perfectly still during the entire trip, though he could feel its warmth through the pack. Inside his cabin, Devin created a makeshift nest from soft blankets near the fireplace. As he gently placed the creature down, its color had shifted from blue to a soft purple, and its movements seemed stronger. Those extraordinary eyes followed his every move as he prepared a basic first aid kit, though he had no idea if any of his medical supplies would be useful for an alien being. "I don't suppose you can tell me what happened to you?" he asked, not really expecting an answer. The creature's form rippled, and suddenly the air around it began to shimmer with tiny points of light. They coalesced into 3-dimensional images, a story told in light. He saw the creature's ship, barely larger than a car, pursued by massive dark vessels through space. A desperate landing. The crystalline shell forming as a protection against Earth's atmosphere. "You're running from something," Devin said softly. The creature's light pulsed once in confirmation. As if in response to his understanding, the being began to change. Its form grew larger, more complex. The transformation was gradual at first, then accelerated, filling the room with a soft radiance that forced Devin to shield his eyes. When the light faded, he lowered his hand and found himself staring not at a small alien creature, but at a humanoid figure that still retained an otherworldly beauty. Her skin had a subtle crystalline quality that caught the firelight, and her eyes remained the same opalescent pools he'd first seen in the ravine. "My name is Naya," she said, her voice carrying an ethereal quality that reminded him of wind through crystal chimes. "And you, Devin Reed, have just saved my life." He tried to form words, but for once in his life, the experienced rescue specialist found himself completely speechless. As the storm raged outside his cabin, Devin realized his life had just become considerably more complicated, and infinitely more extraordinary. The blue-white light from the fireplace cast dancing shadows across Naya's crystalline features as she slowly adjusted to her transformed state. Devin noticed she still favored one side, though her injury seemed less severe in this form. He had 1,000 questions, but the most pressing concern was ensuring her safety. "Those ships that were chasing you," he finally managed. "Are they likely to follow you here?" Naya's expression darkened, causing the crystalline patterns in her skin to shift like clouds across a morning sky. "They will never stop searching. But the crystalline hibernation shell I created should have masked my energy signature. For now, at least, we are safe." What Devin didn't know then was just how wrong she was, and how much saving one injured alien would change not just his life, but the fate of 2 worlds. Secrets of Starlight. Dawn broke over the mountains, painting the snow-covered peaks in shades of rose and gold. Devin sat at his cabin's kitchen table, watching as Naya examined everyday objects with childlike fascination. She held up a simple glass prism, turning it in the morning light and making rainbows dance across the walls. "Your world creates such beauty from basic elements," she said, her voice carrying that strange crystalline resonance. "On Lumaria, we grew our buildings from living crystal, but they never captured light quite like this." Devin poured himself another cup of coffee, still struggling to process the events of the past 12 hours. "Tell me about Lumaria," he said, hoping to understand more about his extraordinary guest. Naya's form shimmered slightly as she set down the prism. "It was a world of crystal forests and singing mountains. My people, the Luminari, were peaceful explorers and scholars. We studied the patterns of life across the galaxy, learning to adapt our forms to better understand other species. Like how you changed from that small creature into..." Devin gestured vaguely at her humanoid form. "Yes. Though this form is more challenging to maintain. It requires significant energy." As if to demonstrate her point, Naya's outline briefly flickered, revealing glimpses of her crystalline structure beneath the seemingly solid surface. "You should rest," Devin suggested, noticing her fatigue. "The injury from yesterday." A sudden high-pitched tone cut through the air, making them both jump. Naya's form instantly shifted, becoming more crystalline and defensive. Devin realized it was just his emergency communications unit. "Read here," he answered, trying to sound normal. "Devin, it's Control. We've got unusual atmospheric readings from your sector last night. Some kind of energy signature. We're sending a research team to investigate." Naya's eyes widened in alarm, her skin taking on a pale, almost translucent quality. Devin thought quickly. "Actually, I was about to call in. My equipment's been acting up since the storm. Probably interference from the magnetic anomalies in this area. I can check it out myself." There was a pause on the other end. "You sure? The readings were pretty unusual. Trust me, it's nothing worth bringing a team up here for. I'll do a full sweep and report back." After signing off, Devin turned to Naya, who had moved to the window, her body tense and alert. "They're not the ones hunting you, are they?" "No," she replied softly. "But any investigation might lead them here. The Shadowers have agents everywhere, monitoring communications, searching for signs of Luminari energy signatures." She turned to face him, her opalescent eyes troubled. "I shouldn't have come here. I've put your world in danger. What exactly are these Shadowers? And why are they hunting your people?" Naya's form rippled with emotional energy. They're collectors of biological uniqueness. They discovered our ability to adapt and transform, and they want to harness it. Turn it into a weapon. Her voice became bitter. They've already captured many of my people. Forced them to change against their will, trying to unlock the secrets of our transformation ability. Devon felt a surge of anger at the thought of such exploitation. That's why you were fleeing in that small ship. I was part of a research mission studying emerging civilizations. When the Shadowers attacked our main vessel, a few of us managed to escape in pods. I don't know if any others survived. She touched the window, her fingers leaving faint traces of luminescence on the glass. I chose your planet because it was marked as pre-interstellar contact, theoretically protected by galactic law. The Shadowers wouldn't expect. She stopped suddenly, her head tilting as though listening to something Devon couldn't hear. Her entire form tensed, the crystalline patterns in her skin swirling faster. What is it? Devon asked, reaching instinctively for his rescue gear. Energy signatures. Artificial. Moving through the upper atmosphere. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They're here. As if confirming her words, a deep thrumming sound penetrated the cabin walls. Devon rushed to the window. High above the mountains, barely visible against the morning sky, three dark shapes moved with deliberate precision, nothing like any aircraft he'd ever seen. We need to move, he said, already grabbing his emergency pack. I know these mountains better than anyone. There are caves, old mining tunnels. No, Naya interrupted, her form beginning to shift and change. I won't risk bringing destruction to your world. I have to leave. Devon caught her arm, surprised to find it solid despite its crystalline appearance. You're still injured. And your ship was damaged. How exactly do you plan to escape? Before she could answer, a brilliant beam of light swept across the landscape outside, coming from one of the ships above. Where it touched, snow instantly vaporized, leaving bare ground exposed. They're scanning for my energy signature, Naya explained, her voice tight with fear. The hibernation shell masked it before, but now that I'm active. Then we do this together, Devon said firmly. I'm a rescue specialist. Saving lives is what I do, and I'm not about to stop just because you're from another planet. For a moment, Naya's form blazed with internal light, her emotional response too strong to contain. Then she nodded, her features settling into determined lines. Together, then. But Devon, what they'll do to you if they catch you helping me. Let me worry about that, he replied, checking his gear and survival equipment. Right now, we need to get you somewhere their scanners can't reach. And I think I know just the place. As they prepared to leave the cabin, Devon couldn't help but wonder if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. But watching Naya's graceful movements, seeing the interplay of light and crystal that made up her being, he knew he couldn't simply stand by and let her face this threat alone. What he didn't realize was that his decision would not only change his life but would soon make him a key player in a conflict that would determine the fate of both their species. The Shadowers were about to discover that humans weren't as primitive as they'd assumed, and that sometimes, the most powerful weapons aren't weapons at all, but the connections we forge when we choose to stand together against the darkness. Hearts across stars. Devon led Naya through the maze of underground mining tunnels, his knowledge of the mountain's hidden passages their only advantage against the hunters above. The crystalline glow of her form provided just enough light to navigate by, casting otherworldly shadows on the rough-hewn walls. These tunnels are shielded by hundreds of feet of rock and mineral deposits, Devon explained, checking his handheld navigation device. If you're right about their scanning technology, they shouldn't be able to detect you down here. The interference is helpful, Naya agreed, her voice echoing strangely in the confined space. But Devon, we can't hide forever. The Shadowers are patient. They've spent decades hunting my people. They reached a larger chamber where several tunnels converged. Devon had stocked emergency supplies here years ago, one of many such caches he maintained throughout the mountain range. As they paused to rest, he noticed Naya's light dimming slightly. "Your injury, how bad is it really?" Naya's form rippled, the crystalline patterns beneath her surface becoming more pronounced. "My energy core was damaged in the crash. I can maintain this form for now, but..." She hesitated. "Without access to specific frequencies of stellar radiation, my ability to regenerate is limited." "You need starlight," Devon realized. "That's why your people are called Luminari." She nodded, a sad smile playing across her features. "We evolved in a binary star system. Our bodies naturally process and store stellar energy. On your world, under your single sun, I can survive, but not heal properly." A distant rumbling interrupted their conversation. Dust and small rocks showered down from the ceiling. The Shadowers were using some kind of energy weapon to scan the mountains, the beams powerful enough to be felt even at this depth. "We need to keep moving," Devon said, gathering their supplies. "There's an old research station about 2 miles ahead. It was abandoned years ago, but some of the equipment might still work." As they traveled deeper into the mountain, Naya told him more about her world and people. The Luminari were a species that had evolved beyond physical constraints, able to reshape their molecular structure at will. This ability had made them legendary healers and ambassadors throughout the galaxy, able to truly understand other species by temporarily adopting their forms. "But the Shadowers saw only weapon potential," she explained bitterly. "They believe that by studying and controlling us, they can create the ultimate infiltration force. Imagine, spies and assassins who could become anyone, anything. That's why you were part of a research mission. To find worlds the Shadowers hadn't reached yet." "Yes. We hoped to warn emerging civilizations, help them prepare. But we were discovered." Her voice caught. "The others in my research group, they sacrificed themselves to ensure I escaped with our findings." Devon stopped walking and turned to face her. In the crystalline glow of her presence, he saw not just an alien being, but someone carrying a tremendous burden of responsibility and loss. Without thinking, he reached out and took her hand. Despite its seemingly fragile appearance, it felt warm and solid in his grip. "You're not alone anymore," he said softly. The moment was interrupted by another blast from above, closer this time. They quickened their pace, but Devon noticed Naya's light growing dimmer. The effort of maintaining her humanoid form was clearly taking its toll. They finally reached the abandoned research station, a series of reinforced chambers carved into the living rock. Decades-old equipment lined the walls, covered in dust but potentially salvageable. "What exactly are we looking for?" Naya asked, examining the unfamiliar human technology. The station was used to study geological phenomena, but they also did some atmospheric research. "If any of the old satellite uplinks still work." Devon began powering up systems, hoping the emergency generators would respond. A few screens flickered to life, casting a harsh electronic glare that made Naya's crystalline form seem even more ethereal by contrast. Devon worked quickly, trying to remember his basic training in these systems. "There," he said finally, pointing to a data stream. "They're using some kind of energy field to sweep the mountains. But look at the pattern, they're moving in a standard search grid. We might be able to predict their movements." Naya studied the display, her opalescent eyes reflecting the scrolling data. "Yes, I recognize this strategy. But Devon." She placed her hand on the screen, and suddenly the data patterns shifted, reorganizing themselves into a more comprehensive display. "They're not just searching. They're establishing a containment field." Meaning soon we won't be able to leave the mountains at all. "They're creating an energy barrier to trap us here." Her form flickered again, more severely this time. "And without access to stellar energy, I won't be able to maintain this form much longer." Devon watched in alarm as Naya's humanoid appearance began to fragment, revealing more of her true crystalline nature. The injury from her crash was taking its toll, and the lack of proper stellar energy was preventing her from healing. But as he looked at the transformed display, showing the Shadowers, Crystal Warriors, Devin stared at the complex data patterns on the screen, his mind racing. The Shadowers were creating an energy barrier around the mountains, but their methodical approach had revealed something crucial, a pattern in their technology. These energy signatures, he said, pointing to recurring spikes in the data. They're similar to the aurora borealis we get here sometimes. The way they interact with Earth's magnetic field. Naya's crystalline form pulsed with sudden understanding. The containment field, it's not just to trap us. They're trying to replicate stellar energy patterns to draw me out. But that means we might be able to use it, Devin realized. If we can reflect and amplify those energy waves somehow. He turned to examine the old research equipment. Among the dust-covered devices, he spotted something promising, an array of specialized mirrors once used for atmospheric light studies. They were designed to capture and focus various wavelengths of radiation for analysis. Your crystalline structure, he asked Naya, can you still change its configuration? Yes, though maintaining any form is becoming difficult. As if to emphasize her point, her humanoid appearance flickered again, edges becoming more faceted and geometric. I have an idea, but it's risky. We might be able to turn their own containment field into a power source for you, but we'll have to get to higher ground. Devin began gathering the mirror array components. There's an observation platform near the peak. If we can set this up there. A thunderous explosion cut him off. The Shadowers were getting closer, their energy weapons systematically destroying potential hiding places. We don't have much choice, Naya said, her voice growing weaker. Without stellar energy, I'll soon revert to my most basic form. Defenseless. They quickly gathered what they needed and headed for the higher tunnels. Devin could feel the mountain trembling around them as the Shadowers' weapons continued their destructive search. The journey that should have taken an hour stretched into 2 as they dodged cave-ins and searched for alternate routes. Finally, they emerged onto the observation platform. The night sky stretched above them, stars obscured by the shimmering energy barrier the Shadowers had created. 3 dark ships hovered at different points around the mountain, maintaining the containment field. They'll detect us up here, Naya warned, her form now barely holding its humanoid shape. Count on it, Devin replied, quickly setting up the mirror array. But they'll have to be careful with their weapons. Too much power could disrupt their own containment field. He positioned the mirrors to create a complex pattern of reflective surfaces, angling them precisely. When they spot us, they'll try to use their energy weapons. The mirrors should split and redirect the beams, creating a feedback loop with their containment field. Creating artificial stellar energy, Naya understood. But Devin, the power involved, it could tear the mountain apart. Then we better get it right the first time. They didn't have to wait long. One of the Shadower ships turned toward their position, its ominous form blotting out the stars. A harsh voice boomed across the mountaintop. Luminary fugitive. Surrender now. Your genetic pattern has been identified. Resistance will only bring pain. Naya straightened, her crystalline form blazing with sudden defiance. My people will never serve as your weapons. The ship's response was a searing beam of energy that cut through the night. Devin held his breath as it struck the first mirror, splitting into multiple beams that bounced between the carefully arranged surfaces. The redirected energy began to interact with the containment field, creating cascade patterns of light across the sky. Now, Naya. She stepped into the center of the mirror array, her crystalline form catching and amplifying the reflected energy. The mountain peak became a nexus of light as the Shadowers' own power was turned against them. Naya's body absorbed the artificial stellar energy, her form stabilizing and growing stronger. But the Shadowers weren't finished. 2 more energy beams joined the first, threatening to overwhelm the mirror array. Devon rushed to adjust the angles, his hands protected by his thermal gloves as the mirrors grew hot. "Too much power," he shouted. "The mirrors can't take it." Naya's voice came back strong and clear. "They don't need to anymore." Her fully restored form rose into the air, her crystalline structure now a perfect matrix for channeling and redirecting energy. The Shadowers' weapons became useless as she caught and transformed their power, sending it back in pulses that disrupted their ship systems. One of the dark vessels began to spin, its energy containment failing. The others tried to compensate, but Naya's control of the power flow was absolute. She had become a living prism, a star-powered force that the Shadowers couldn't contain. The ships retreated, their containment field collapsing. As the artificial energy storm subsided, Naya descended to the platform. Her crystalline form was radiant with stored power, patterns of light flowing beneath her surface like liquid stars. "They'll be back," she said, helping Devon to his feet. "With stronger weapons and better containment fields. Then we'll be ready." Devon looked at the scattered remains of the mirror array, mind already working on improvements. "Now we know it's possible to replicate the stellar energy you need. With better equipment, proper planning. You would continue to help me?" Naya asked, her form shifting back to its more humanoid appearance, though now it seemed to glow from within with newfound strength. "I told you before, you're not alone anymore." He reached out to touch her crystalline hand, feeling the warm pulse of energy beneath its surface. "Besides, I think Earth could use an advanced alien ally, especially if the Shadowers decide to make this planet their next target." Naya's form shimmered with what he now recognized as happiness. The Luminari have always believed in the potential of emerging civilizations. Perhaps it's time we stopped hiding and started forming real alliances. As dawn broke over the mountains, they began planning their next move. The Shadowers had been driven off, but this was just the beginning. Earth would need to be prepared for what was coming, and Devon had a feeling his life as a simple rescue specialist was over. Looking at Naya, her crystalline form refracting the morning sunlight into rainbow patterns, he found he didn't mind at all. Beyond Earth's shadow. 3 months after the battle on the mountain, Devon stood in a secret underground facility, watching as engineers integrated Luminari crystal technology with Earth's defense systems. Naya moved among them, her crystalline form shifting between human and Luminari appearance as she guided the integration process. The world had changed dramatically since that night. Once the existence of alien life could no longer be denied, governments had scrambled to respond. But Naya's presence, and her warning about the Shadowers, had helped unite rather than divide. Humanity faced its first major extraterrestrial threat, but they weren't facing it alone. "The energy matrix is stable," Naya announced, her voice carrying that musical resonance that still captivated Devon. "Your scientists learn remarkably quickly." "We're motivated," Devon replied, thinking of the developments of the past months. Having actual alien technology to study helps. Using the principles they discovered during their confrontation with the Shadowers, they had developed a network of energy collectors that could gather and store stellar radiation. These would not only help protect Earth but also provide safe havens for any other Luminari refugees who might find their way here. "We've received another signal," Naya said softly, moving to stand beside him. 3 more of my people have escaped the Shadowers. They're heading for Earth. The sanctuary network will be ready for them," Devon assured her. "And our orbital defense grid should be operational within weeks." But there was something in Naya's manner that made him pause. Her crystalline patterns were swirling in the way he'd learned meant she was troubled. "What is it?" "The Luminari High Council has finally responded to my messages," she said. "They're impressed with how humans have handled first contact. They're proposing an official alliance." "That's good news, isn't it?" "Yes, but..." Her form flickered slightly. "They want me to return to Lumaria. To help coordinate the alliance and share what I've learned about Earth's defensive capabilities." Devon felt his heart sink. Over the past months, as they'd worked together to prepare Earth's defenses, his connection with Naya had grown into something deeper than partnership. Despite their different species, despite her crystalline nature, they'd found something rare and precious between them. "How long would you be gone?" "That's what I need to discuss with you." She turned to face him fully, her opalescent eyes meeting his. "The Council has approved something unprecedented. They're offering Earth an official embassy on Lamaria. We need someone who understands both worlds, who can help bridge the gap between our species." Understanding dawned. "They want a human ambassador. They want you, Devin." Her form shimmered with emotion. "Your actions, your willingness to help me despite the risk, your ingenuity in combining our technologies, you've proven that humans and Luminari can work together in ways neither of us imagined possible." "Me? I'm just a rescue specialist." "Who better? You understand both the practical and diplomatic aspects of saving lives." She moved closer, her crystalline hand taking his. "And I don't want to leave you behind." The touch sent familiar tingles of energy through his body. Over their months together, they discovered that Naya's crystalline nature allowed for a unique form of connection. When they touched, he could sense her emotions, share in her perceptions of the world. It was unlike anything in human experience, and yet it felt completely natural. "What about the Shadowers?" he asked. "They're still out there." "Yes, but they're finding themselves increasingly isolated. Other species have learned of their actions against the Luminari. Trade sanctions are being imposed. Their power is waning." Her form brightened. "And with Earth joining the galactic community as an ally of the Luminari, they'll think twice before returning here." Devin looked around the facility, at the humans and the crystalline technology they were learning to use. In just 3 months, his world had expanded beyond anything he could have imagined that snowy night in the mountains. "When do we leave?" Naya's form blazed with joy, her crystalline patterns creating a dazzling light show. "The Council has sent a ship. We can depart as soon as you're ready." She hesitated. "But Devin, you should know, living on Lamaria will change you. The binary star's radiation, exposure to our technology, you won't age like normal humans. You'll be different." "I've been different since the moment I found you in that ravine," he said with a smile. "Besides, Earth will need a long-term ambassador, right?" Her response was to shift her form to pure crystal for a moment, enveloping him in a bubble of energy that felt like a warm embrace. When she resumed her humanoid appearance, there were tears like liquid diamonds in her eyes. 1 month later, they stood in the observatory of a Luminari ship, watching Earth shrink behind them. The planet looked peaceful from space, its swirling clouds hiding the bustling activity below as humanity prepared for its new role in the galaxy. "Having second thoughts?" Naya asked, noticing his contemplative expression. "No," Devin replied honestly. "Just thinking about how one small act of kindness can change everything. If I hadn't investigated that strange light in the mountains." "The universe has patterns we can't always see," Naya said, her crystalline form refracting starlight into rainbow patterns. "My people believe that some souls are meant to find each other, even across the vast distances of space." As their ship accelerated toward the stars, Devin reflected on the truth of her words. He had gone from being a simple mountain rescue specialist to Earth's first ambassador to an alien world. But more importantly, he had found something he never knew he was looking for, a connection that transcended the boundaries of species and space. The stars streaked past, each one a promise of new adventures to come. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, a union of flesh and crystal, Earth and Lamaria, proving that love truly knows no boundaries, not even those of different worlds. Behind them, Earth continued its quiet revolution around its single sun, forever changed by the night a man rescued what he thought was an injured animal, only to find himself on an adventure beyond his wildest dreams.